The Lakers, they finally did it. They got their man. The news just came out today that Andre Drummond is going to be spending the remainder of the season with the Los Angeles Lakers in the buyout for the remainder of the season. $27.9 million was left on his contract, and he will be spending his remainder of the year with the contending, trying to go back-to-back, the Los Angeles Lakers, and has joined that Lake Show. We're going to see if this is as big of a impact as we're thinking it's going to have throughout the NBA. This is a big move that the Lakers have been trying to do throughout by getting a trade, but the buyout this time paid dividend for the Los Angeles Lakers, and they're able to get their guy, the one man they've highly coveted this year, Andre Drummond. The 27-year-old center has joined forces with the Lakers to try and get that back-to-back rings for them. A much-needed addition. Obviously, this is the big fish for the Lakers. They really need his presence, especially on the defensive end, and getting that big center who has that big presence is really important for them. Obviously, being with Anthony Davis and LeBron James being out with injury for the foreseeable future, next couple of weeks they're going to be without their two guys. Getting Andre Drummond might help them stop losing. Obviously, they've tumbled in the rankings not too far, but they're currently fourth in the West with a 29-17 record, and they might go down even further. Getting Andre Drummond would help that as well. But most importantly, he's one of the best rebounders in this league. The Lakers need that presence in the paint, and they need his shot blocking. He tremendously helps them on the defensive end as the rim protector and a paint protector. Obviously, that huge presence in body. 17.5 points per game, 13.5 rebounds. Obviously, the two-time All-Stars led the league in rebounding for 4 years with 15-16 rebounds per game. And they need that rebounding. Obviously, the two centers that they have on the team right now are Marc Gasol and Montrezl Harrell. Obviously, Marc Gasol, he hasn't been too great this year. He's been very inconsistent. Obviously, in and out of the lineup. Unfortunately, COVID has come in that he hasn't been as good as expected as we thought. As we initially thought the Lakers got richer, the rich got richer, but it hasn't been so far. For Gasol, hasn't been as great of a shooter this season. Only 5 points per game, 41% from the field. And then Montrez, he hasn't been too good either. Obviously, he's smaller. He can't guard those big guys like Jokic, Gobert. Those are the two guys you're going to see in the West in the playoffs. Obviously, Gobert being the Stifle Tower 7-footer. And Jokic, obviously, was really beating up Montrez last season when he was with the Clippers. Drummond, obviously, not being a shooter, but the two-time All-Star, getting those big boards. That's key in the playoffs. Boards are really key in the playoffs. And getting Andre Drummond obviously helps that so much more. He's going to be playing the center role. Obviously, Anthony Davis will also be joining him occasionally. But this gives the Lakers flexibility in the positions that they can run for the starters. It's a great move for the Lakers. They get it. We've been waiting for this to happen, and they finally do it. It's a great move. It will really help them in the playoffs. Obviously, last year having JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, this is kind of their guy now who they can plug into the starting lineup with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and KCP, and then a shooter. So the Lakers definitely got better. This is a move that is equivalent to 2 players joining any other team like the Nets or something. It's that big of a move. We're going to see how it pays out. Obviously, him being with the Cavaliers, not playing, getting traded over here. It's going to be great for him. I can't wait to see how it works. And obviously, the next one is going to be LaMarcus Aldridge. The huge move that has sent him to the Nets. Like, how many players are joining the Nets now? Like, pretty much every single guy we've seen who's on the market, open to teams, he joins the Nets. Because this team is just becoming ridiculous, honestly. It's becoming out of hand how many All-Stars they're going to have on this team. LaMarcus Aldridge just being another great addition for this team. I don't know where this money comes out of. I don't know. Are they playing with Monopoly money or something? I don't really know how they're able to get all these guys on the team. But obviously, let's talk about LaMarcus Aldridge. He has declined. Obviously, you can see that being a savvy veteran, especially defensively, he hasn't been as great defensively. The 7th-time All-Star and forward/center. He has joined the Nets, obviously being one of the main title contenders this year. The 35-year-old had a contract buyout with the Spurs. He will be probably playing the most minutes at center, which is what I'd expect. So for the starting lineup, I'd see Kyrie and James in the backcourt, KD, and then LaMarcus Aldridge at center, and probably Joe Harris as that small forward to shoot that 3-ball. 13.7 points per game so far, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.7 assists for the big man from San Antonio. Obviously, primarily was with the Blazers, got traded to San Antonio. Now with the Nets, 26 minutes per game. Obviously hasn't played a lot this season. Only 21 games, has had some injuries. That may be an issue as well. But I would expect a starting role for LaMarcus for LA, 46% from the field. Once again, he's a really great offensive player. You're obviously going to still have that shooting, 36% from downtown. So that's going to be really important. And he can still be paint presence and rim protector as well. Obviously got that 6'11 size. I'm sure he would be rejuvenated joining a team that really has a chance to get that chip. I would expect some greatly improved play. Obviously, this has become a true super team now, with now 6 All-Stars on this team at one point. It almost seems like kind of like the Avengers gathering together to beat the Lakers, to beat the 36-year-old LeBron. It kind of seems like all of these guys who haven't won a chip yet, LaMarcus, James Harden, Blake Griffin, they're all joining to get that chip. Joining forces together. Kind of seems like that. I mean, how many guys are you guys going to get? Seriously. 6 All-Stars. I've never seen that many stars joining together. James Harden, Kyrie, KD being in their primes. Blake Griffin still being a solid role player. LaMarcus also being pretty decent. That's it. I mean, I remember when KD said that he wanted to win without the super team, wanted to prove to that. Obviously, well, now you have a ridiculous super team. Might even be better than those Warriors teams. Obviously, the big question being is the chemistry. That's my major problem right now with the Nets. They have all of this talent, all of this great offensive talent. Offensively, they're probably going to be the greatest team to ever take court in NBA history. There's no doubt about that. I think we all know that. But can they play together? That's my problem. You got so many guys who want to take shots, obviously. Who's going to share the ball? How is it going to work out? That's my big question. Got a lot of personalities on this team, no doubt. But can they play together, gel, work together as a team? That's most important. A team will beat a group of individual superstars. We all know that. You saw that with the Clippers last year. So, obviously the Clippers not being as good, but still. Can they work it out? I think James Harden is doing a tremendous job fitting in Brooklyn. Obviously, to me, being the MVP right now. James Harden, number 1 on the list right now. KD still hasn't come back. 1 more week until KD comes back. Then we have to see if they can gel, get that chemistry together, who gets the ball when to pass it, who you throw the alley-oops to, and that run the screens and build that trust and chemistry together is obviously going to be a big problem. I don't know. We'll just have to see if that works. I'm not sure right now. Obviously, if they can get it together, I think it just might be over for the rest of the league. But until that happens, I'm not so sure. Obviously, the Lakers being a much more better team itself, I would think, when LeBron and AD comes back. So we'll have to see. So many guys would want their shots, obviously. And I've seen Kyrie when he's on the floor without Harden. He seems more comfortable. But obviously, when both of them are on the floor, it becomes highly lethal. It's going to take time. But I think by the playoffs, they might be ready. Currently, the Nets are 31-15, second in the Eastern Conference. They should be able to get that number 1 spot in the East. And I think cruise to the Eastern Conference Finals. Especially LaMarcus now. I mean, gee, boy. Next up, I want to talk about Aaron Gordon, the NBA trade deadline. Obviously, the huge move that the Denver Nuggets got. To me, the Denver Nuggets were the biggest winner at the NBA trade deadline. They greatly moved up as contenders and are in the thick of it in the West. I think they can go head-to-head now. If they can get their act together, start winning games, be more consistent. I think the Nuggets can really come out of the West, possibly. It's very possible. Obviously, we saw them going to the Western Conference Finals last year. Getting Aaron Gordon was a big step this year. Obviously, it's going to be a challenge for the Nuggets. They haven't looked as good this year. But getting Aaron Gordon is a huge step in the right way. Basically, the trade was Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark have been sent to the Nuggets for Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a protected 2025 first-round pick have been sent to the Magic. Obviously, this year, Aaron Gordon with about 15 points per game, 6.6 rebounds. Obviously, a big upgrade at the wing position, a solid defender at the forward. It's a big win for the Nuggets at the trade deadline, obviously. They also got JaVale McGee for Isaiah Hartenstein, a 2023 protected second-rounder, and a unprotected 2027 second-rounder. Obviously, JaVale McGee being that great paint presence, that big shot blocker, he will be really great off the bench. They need that size and intensity as well. JaVale McGee bringing that experience. Obviously, he's kind of a joker, but still. They really didn't have to pay much for Aaron Gordon, honestly. You get Gary Harris, obviously, who's been injured a lot this year. He just hasn't been consistent enough. And then you get a young player, RJ Hampton. He's obviously going to grow as a player, but right now the Nuggets are a title contender. They're a win-now team. And getting the 25-year-old Aaron Gordon, a tremendous talent, obviously, to me, the two-time slam dunk champion, is a great job. A much higher contender, obviously. Currently, the Nuggets are 6th in the West at 27-18. Aaron Gordon has been really great from the three-point line this year, around 37%. So getting that three ball is great as well. And getting that athleticism that Aaron Gordon presents is great. Obviously, the thing with Aaron Gordon is that he gets injured. He gets injured a lot, and he has to stay on the floor. Staying on the floor is the best job any kind of player can do, and that's the thing. Can he stay healthy? If he does, the Nuggets are going to be tremendously happy with that. And then I want to talk about Rajon Rondo. Obviously, Rondo being sent to the Clippers for Lou Will, 2 second-round picks, and some cash. So it's a big price to pay, honestly, to get Rondo. The scoring off the bench, Lou Will. I mean, sweet Lou, what does he present? Get that immense scoring and that great ability to score off the bench is really great for the Clippers. That is going to be greatly missed for the Clippers. It's going to be a problem. I mean, to me, I think they need more scoring. They still need some more bench depth as well. Rondo, we'll see if he comes off the bench or not. But either way, they add Rondo. Obviously, Rajon being a high IQ player, a high basketball IQ player, a very smart player, has that leadership. He brings that leadership to a team, that fire and energy to motivate. That is so important. And then that experience, the playoff experience, the two-time NBA champion at 35 years old, is really going to bring that experience, what you need to do in the big moments. Obviously, we saw with the Lakers, that was so important to them in their title run. Obviously, against the Rockets, I saw he was draining threes as well. He is a nice pickup, a tough customer for any kind of other team to deal with. I think Rondo brings stuff off the stat sheet that you really can't see. It's totally different once you see it. To me, I still think it's a bit of a high price to pay for Rondo. I would not have given up Lou Will personally. It's a high price, but look, it may be just worth it because Rondo in the playoffs, you all know playoff Rondo. It's much different. It's really great when Rondo's in the playoffs. But like I said, they still need some scoring. 31-16 currently are the Clippers are 3rd in the West. Rondo is going to be a great help, but losing Lou Will obviously is going to hurt them. And then lastly, Nikola Vucevic. This was personally probably the biggest blockbuster trade of the trade deadline. Obviously, you're sending Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu to the Bulls, and they will be sending Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and 2 first-round picks to the Magic. Obviously, the Magic are in a complete rebuild now. They traded away all their stars and be restarting now. It's a big win for Chicago, personally. This is a huge win. Getting Vucevic for this price, to me, is great. And then also getting Al-Farouq Aminu, a solid role player as well. I think the Bulls are in a great spot in the East right now. Obviously, not being a great record, but they should be in the playoff mix now, getting Vooch. Zach LaVine, all-star, Vucevic, an all-star as well. So you have this great offensive all-star talent on the Chicago Bulls. They're going to be great offensively. They'll score points. But defensively, they still got some problems. Vooch is really not the best defender. He's gotten better in the pick-and-roll defense, but still, he has to improve. He's mostly an average player defensively, but very versatile as that center. A really great offensive player. 25 points per game, 12 rebounds. He's a walking double-double and 4 assists per game. Vucevic is a great scorer, even as a big man. 41% from 3, 83% from the free throw line, and almost 50% from the field. The two-time All-Star being shipped to Chicago, I think is really going to help them, getting a big presence who can really manipulate the floor pretty well. He's a great passer as well. He may be able to help Levine get some open looks, and Vuce obviously can knock those down as well. So the Bulls obviously getting much more help, but can they make the playoffs? It's going to be tight with the Celtics, with the Hornets, the Hawks, the Pacers. Can they outlast those teams? It's very much possible, considering the talent they get now with Nikola Vucevic, Al-Farouq Amino, Zach LaVine, Thaddeus Young. You've got a great team over there, especially offensively. And then, what the Magic are getting, Wendell Carter Jr., obviously a solid young role player. Otto Porter Jr. is very young. The Magic are getting some very young talent and some great assets. Obviously, 2 first-round picks here. They got 2 second-round picks. They're getting a lot of picks, basically. They're in store for a big rebuild, I guess you could say. Terrence Ross being the only guy from the Magic now, because Evan Fournier was also dealt to the Celtics for 2 second-round picks. That will help the Celtics, but they still need more help, even with Fournier. They just haven't been playing as good. The Bulls also got Daniel Tice from the Celtics. He's a solid center that can shoot as well, so him coming off the bench would help the Bulls as well. They got a huge upgrade at the center position. And then last up, I want to talk about Norman Powell being shipped to the Blazers for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. I think it might be a C to a B minus for this trade. It's an okay trade. Not really a huge fan of it. But Norman Powell, man, he's been great this year. The greatest year for him, his breakout season at 27 years old. 20 points per game, 3 threes, 44% from downtown as well, and a solid defender. He's going to the Blazers, who are 28-18 right now, 5th in the West. It's a good help. He can put in right into the starting lineup with CJ, Dame, Powell, Nurkic, and Covington. So, but the thing is, the Blazers have to send off Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Gary Trent Jr. is only 22 years old. He's a solid shooter, almost 40% from 3, 15 points per game. It's a breakout for him. So you're losing Gary Trent Jr., but you're getting the upgrade, let's say, with Norman Powell. And then you lose Rodney Hood. The Blazers are saying, well, it's not a big loss to lose Rodney Hood. He hasn't been playing that much, first of all. Gary Trent Jr. is 5 years younger. You're losing some depth, obviously, because Rodney Hood was a solid bench player offensively. But you're getting a younger side breakout player who's been amazing this year, especially with the injuries to the Blazers. So he can pop right back into the lineup. It's great for the Blazers, but again, they're giving up stuff as well. So we'll see. And then last up, we got JJ Redick and Melly being shipped to the Mavericks for James Johnson, Iwundu, and a second-round pick. Great shooters offensively from downtown. More help for Luka Doncic. He's in the MVP race as well. So pretty much a lot of teams in the West have been improving. The Lakers, obviously the Mavericks, the Blazers, and the Nuggets. You have a lot of teams in that Western Conference who up their game. And the Nets, obviously, getting LaMarcus. That's the biggest thing. But getting LaMarcus is not the end, guys. It's not over. The rest of the team's chemistry has to be important. So once again, hope you enjoyed this video. Please go down, hit the like, subscribe, enable notifications. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please go down, comment what you think of LaMarcus Aldridge and the Nets situation. And I hope to see you in the next video.